Hey guys, so I decided to do a fictional character analysis on Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy for my final project. Meredith Grey struggles with persistent depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and PTSD throughout the show. Persistent depressive disorder is characterized by being a more chronic, less severe form of depression. Depression can be caused by any number of factors, including but not limited to biological causes, cognitive causes, behavioral causes, and sociocultural causes. The two factors that I believe lead to Meredith's struggle with mental illness are genetics/biochemical factors, as well as life experiences. Generalized anxiety disorder is defined as underlying excessive worry related to a wide range of events or activities. Meredith Grey often presents with persistent anxiety and worry, in addition to her depressive symptoms. Throughout the show, the audience learns more and more about Meredith's childhood, which has a major impact on her mental health. Meredith's mother, Ellis Grey, was a well-renowned surgeon at Seattle Grace who spent most of her time at the hospital and did not take time to be with her daughter. Ellis left Meredith's dad, Thatcher, when she was having an affair with Richard Weber. Thatcher became an alcoholic and did not put any effort into staying in touch with Ellis and Meredith. He went on to start a new family without telling Meredith and Ellis. Meredith goes on to become a surgeon at the same hospital as her mother, where Dr. Weber just so happens to be the chief of surgery. Ellis developed Alzheimer's when Meredith was in medical school, thus putting excess stress on Meredith. Ellis did not want anyone at the hospital knowing about her disease, so that meant that Meredith needed to take care of her mother on her own while going through her intern year at Seattle Grace. Ellis gets sick and is brought to Seattle Grace for treatment, so eventually the doctors there find out about her disease. Once Ellis is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, she does not recognize anyone other than Richard Weber. Ellis is constantly telling Meredith that she is a disappointment and that she is not good enough. Meredith's childhood and dysfunctional family takes a major toll on her mental health. Growing up with virtually no support system can lead to the development or worsening of mental illness. Meredith seems to continuously struggle with depression. However, her mental health worsens in the event of any kind of trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a development of psychological, physiological, and emotional symptoms following exposure to a traumatic event. Meredith is always running towards danger in the event of a traumatic event, and this shows that she does not necessarily care about her life and that she is not afraid to die. Some of the most traumatic events for Meredith include holding a live bomb inside of a patient, a shooting in the hospital, a plane crash, a ferry boat crash, and the death of Derek Shepard. In Season 2, a patient is brought in with an unexploded piece of ammunition in his chest. A first responder is arm deep in the patient's chest holding the bomb still, and the patient is brought to the operating room. Once it is learned that the object in the patient's chest is in fact unexploded ammunition, they are told to evacuate the floor, but Meredith and one other doctor stay with the patient and the first responder while another operation is taking place in a different room. Eventually, after the bomb squad arrives and the first responder becomes extremely anxious and removes her arm from the patient's chest, and Meredith quickly reaches in and holds the bomb still. A bomb is removed from the patient's chest, and as the bomb squad member is walking away with the bomb, it explodes. This takes a toll on Meredith's mental health in that she willingly put her arm into a man with an unexploded bomb in his chest. This action raises red flags to many doctors regarding the mental health of Meredith Grey. During Season 3 of the show, Meredith gives up on life and tries to drown herself. The doctors at Seattle Grace go out and respond to a ferry boat crash. While helping the injured man, Meredith falls into the freezing cold water. She swims and fights for her life for a little bit, but eventually she realizes there is no point in fighting anymore and gives up. Derek Shepard, a doctor at Seattle Grace and Meredith's boyfriend at the time, jumps into the water to save her. Meredith is transported to Seattle Grace, where the doctors fight tirelessly to bring her back to life. Meredith's mental health plays a large role in this event. She decided that life was not worth the fight anymore and that she would rather die than put in the effort to keep living. At this point in her life, Meredith has become so depressed that she has become suicidal. This event takes place in the middle of a traumatic event that results in immeasurable numbers of injuries and deaths. At the end of season 6, the husband of a patient that died comes into the hospital with a gun looking for revenge on the surgeons working at the hospital. He's specifically looking for Richard Weber and Derek Shepard, arguably the two doctors that are closest to Meredith Grey. At the time of the shooting, Dr. Shepard is the chief of surgery as well as the husband of Meredith Grey. At the time of the shooting, Meredith is pregnant with Derek's baby. The shooter, Gary Clark, becomes increasingly aggravated with the doctors at Seattle Grace and starts shooting people on his way to find Derek Shepard. Derek is working hard to follow protocol and keep everyone safe when Gary finds him and shoots him in the chest right in front of Meredith and Christina, her best friend Christina. Meredith and Christina are able to get Derek to an operating room, and Christina begins working tirelessly to save his life while Meredith tries to remain calm. Gary Clark then finds Christina operating on Derek, and Meredith comes into the operating room while things are quickly escalating. Meredith begs the shooter to shoot her instead of anyone else in the room. Many of the individuals involved with this event end up struggling with PTSD. The stress of the situation causes Meredith to have a miscarriage, which further contributes to her PTSD that she struggles with at the end result of the shooting. Season 11 of the show brings about more trauma for the Seattle Grace doctors. Meredith's husband, Derek, is on his way out of town when he approaches a bad car wreck. He stops to help the victims and is able to successfully save them. He gets in his car and goes to leave when his car is hit by a semi-truck. He is rushed to a small hospital nearby, and the doctors get impatient and do not take the time to get scans of his brain before taking him back for surgery. Derek eventually dies on the operating table of a brain bleed. Meredith is woken up by police officers at her home, notifying her of the accident. She wakes up her kids and they rush to the hospital. Meredith is notified of Derek's passing when she and her children arrive at the hospital. She returns to Seattle Grace to notify the doctors there of his death. This sends Meredith into a big battle with PTSD. Meredith becomes increasingly depressed and anxious. She could not stand to be in Seattle and in the house without Derek. So she took her kids and left Seattle in the middle of the night without telling anyone. Meredith finds out that she is pregnant with Derek's baby, and this makes her depression even worse. Meredith struggles with her mental health throughout the duration of the show. Her life experiences prove to have a major impact on her. I would recommend psychotherapy and possibly medication to treat Meredith's disorders. Medication could prove to be beneficial in this case because both of Meredith's parents struggle with mental illness, thus predisposing her for biochemical imbalances, which can be improved with the use of medication. Medication alone cannot cure mental health disorders. However, medication can help treat the biological aspect of these disorders. Psychotherapy can also prove to be very beneficial in working to treat mental illness.